Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have David Schofman, founder of Coro Health, as my guest. We're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices that he's learned, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, David. So great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kay. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Well, before we get started in all things business, I'd love to share a bit about you. So take us back as far as you want and share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I guess most people would consider me a serial entrepreneur. I started my first company literally right after I graduated from the University of Texas and selling golf clubs on the internet, which before the internet was really the internet. So had a number of businesses kind of on the consumer product side, e-commerce side, tech infrastructure side. Been very fortunate to been able to build those up. Some of them pretty sizable and have great exits for our investors. And so yeah, so I've been building businesses across a lot of different verticals for a lot of years. And so and then I live in Austin, Texas. Got three daughters, and yeah, I've been doing this a long time. And then with Coro Health, we launched that business in 2008, and so it's been around for a long time.
Oh, wow. Well, I love hearing that you have a vast journey of entrepreneurship, business ownership. And so I love to hear about like what was that spark? What inspired Coral Health? But like before we get to that, actually, what is Coral Health? Let's give me a brief on what that is.
Yeah, so we're a digital therapeutics company providing therapeutic music for the long-term care industry. So the short version of the background there is I'm a very amateur musician, and music was in my family. And my mom was a hospice nurse, and so I was around, healthcare, as a kid. And the in around 2006, my middle daughter's a special needs kid, and as all parents searching for answers, she has a really rare genetic disorder. We got her involved in music therapy. I didn't even know what music therapy was, but we were looking around, and there's a great program here in Austin called the Center for Music Therapy. We enrolled her. We started seeing these incredible benefits, and I was like, "Wow, this is fascinating." And as an entrepreneur, I was kind of looking at the business model, and music therapy is one-on-one, playing instruments, but there's all this neuroscience behind the power of music and how it impacts the brain, and so. But music therapy is expensive. There's only less than 10,000 certified music therapists in the United States, so it's not readily available. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way to leverage science, to leverage music, to bring it to people when a music therapist isn't available or it's cost prohibitive. And so that's kind of how it all started. We pulled together a group of music therapists, music designers, neuroscientists, some of the most preeminent brains in the industry, literally brought them to Austin, got them in a room, and said, how are we going to build out a streaming service to provide the benefits of therapeutic music to individuals in healthcare settings? And so that's really how it formed. It was in my garage with servers, and we were making boxes with plugged computers and speakers in them, and wiring Cat5 and nursing homes, and putting boxes in there, and building custom playlists for them to support them with wake, sleep, energy, relax, pain management across the board. And so yeah, it was quite a journey to where we are today, with 5,000 long-term care communities using our service and 300 hospitals. So and millions of individuals that we serve every day. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, this speaks to my heart because I am also a musician and in the
Oh,
music scene. And so that is amazing. And gosh, the power of music on people is it's beautiful. It's incredible. So I'm very excited to dive into this conversation. Yeah, let's kind of like kick it off. You kind of gave a brief of what inspired it. And, how is it now? Because you kind of answered that both questions in one. So I can kind of move on to, I'd love to learn about, as an owner, how are you structuring this company on the like on the back end? Like what's your ownership structure currently look like? Is it just you, or do you have a team, an executive board? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, so we raised money for the business a while back, and not family and friends mostly, and then some professional money from Austin Ventures when they were around, and the when in the beginning when we were structuring the company, like I told you, we had hardware and we were building music boxes and we were stringing wire, and it was pretty cost intensive, and
Mm,
and I do have an executive board and obviously shareholders that I report to, as well as we don't have a big staff in this company. It doesn't require that. Lots of 1099 folks,
yeah.
so we try to keep that pretty much the way that we run the business. And so yeah, so we brought in money, used that, and then in about 2012 or 13, that's when streaming really started taking off, right? And
Mhm.
the iPhone was becoming a thing, and so we pivoted the business like significantly and just said we are getting out of the hardware space, period, and we are going to offer our service through what I call distribution partners. But these are the people that, for lack of a better term, own the TV in the room in a hospital or a nursing home. They're already delivering content. They're delivering, TV and entertainment and what's on the menu today and medication reminders and all that stuff. So they already had hardware in the room. So we went and partnered with dozens of them and basically just became the music, and we also provide spiritual content, music and spiritual content provider for them. And so that's how we grew the business and expanded, was really leveraging partnerships across the industry.
That's a real golden nugget of this conversation because you took a challenge you were facing, and then you found a remedy. You found a way to leverage what was already existing and bring it as a service. So I
Right.
think that's really cool, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How was that for you? And that when you transitioned into that, was it like a relief feeling, or was there a lot of logistics that went into that?
Kay, it was really hard, being honest with you. And I've had in my career two times where I had to fire customers. And it's like the hardest thing to do in the world because I fought so hard to get customers. At the time, we had about 300 locations around the United States. And, I had to sell, into each one of those one at a time. And literally, we were putting teams of people out there putting the music systems in. And when we pivoted away from that, we basically had to call them and say, we're not providing the service anymore. And it was sad, right? And it was really, really difficult. And I had to do that in my tech infrastructure business as well. When we pivoted, we had to fire a bunch of customers, and it was really, really, it's heartbreaking because again, you fight so hard as an entrepreneur, and you raise money on a business thesis, and then you have to pivot the business, and your investors are like, "What the hell? I didn't know that that's what the business we were in." And pivots are really, really, really hard. And I've been through a lot in my career, obviously. But getting the employees on board with it, getting your investors on board with it, actually going out and implementing it, and not messing up along the way, it's difficult. It's really difficult, but it was the right thing to do for the business. I've been fortunate enough that most of the pivots we've done were the right pivots, and they take a while and can be expensive, but it's the right thing to do. And you hear about it all the time. Businesses do this.
It's so true, and I think it's like having that courage to make that shift. I'm in one right now myself, and it's so true, and you feel that nudge of, oh, I need to change here, but you're
You're,
scared because it's like, okay, what is this gonna say about the company? What is this gonna say? Like you said, you have investors, and I think that takes a lot of courage. So thank you for sharing that story.
yeah, no, it does, and like I said, it's gut wrenching, but it's the absolute right thing to do. It's almost like letting an employee go that's been hanging around too long. You never look back and regret when you let somebody go and say you did it too soon. So it's kind of the same thing. Once you get past the pain of it, and you start seeing the benefits, it's you realize it was the right thing to do most of the time. So
Definitely, definitely. Well, now, you mentioned you have a lot of 1099 and then you have a few employees. So how many employees do you currently have?
we have less than 20 employees, that are full time. We just don't. The business doesn't require a lot of employees
Hmm.
because we contract out so much of the work. And on the sales side, we're selling to these distributors I was telling you about, and there's not hundreds of these. There's dozens of them, and so you don't need a huge sales force to go out there and work with them. And the beauty part of our business is it scales with their scale. So every time they land another account, we land another account. Every time they, get a new franchise, we get a new franchise. So we have a virtual sales force in our partnerships, like most distributors, work through. And so, and then on the content side, like I said, we contract with music therapists, we contract with music designers, we contract our IT work, so it's really kind of the core stuff like accounting, account management, sales support, licensing, which is a total nightmare, as you know. So we report to ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, Sound Exchange. We have to report every song, every location, every
Mm,
month, and obviously pay them for those. And when the artists need to get paid, of course. And so that's a lot of work. That's a full-time job for several people. Um,
mhm,
we also just launched in Canada, so we have to report to all of the PROs in Canada as well. So it's a lot of work, and so but yeah, it doesn't require a lot of people. It's one of the things I love about this business, to be honest with you, because I've had big businesses with lots of employees, and when I was younger, that was a lot of fun. But as I get older, smaller businesses with great margins and great scale are a lot more palatable for me and part of my career.
that also, yeah, that brings up another really great point is, yeah, it's like when you look at size, it's size of a business, it's more so about like, what are your margins? Like, what are your profit margins? So, what are some ways you're keeping your profit margins healthy?
Yeah, a lot of it is, like I said, it's managing, as many 1099s as we can and trying to keep, the costs variable. We have big projects and they come in and then we kind of sit because we will roll out new projects, new content. Like we rolled out audiobooks, on the entertainment side. Because once we got in with the music, we were like, what other content can we provide? Right. So we
Mhm.
started doing spiritual support. Well, one of the interesting things about faith is most faith traditions and are interested in promoting their faith tradition. And so, they have a lot of content out there that we have the ability to get relatively inexpensively. So we're not paying the massive fees that we are to the performance rights organizations with most of our spiritual content. So you have higher margins in that area, much lower margins on the music, and it blends out, right?
Mhm.
And then when you do things like audiobooks, we do a lot of them in the public domain because of our demographic is 75 to 100 years old, right? And so books like Moby Dick are in the public domain, and so we get those books for free. We have to record the audio, of course, but and so that's a high margin piece of business. We have old time radio shows, which are all in the public domain, which have super high margins. So and then we have other entertainment products like karaoke and music trivia, which has really high margins because we made the music trivia. So yeah, so we blend it with a combination of low margin business as our core, which is the music, and then we sell high margin services and other content on top.
That's really cool. So you have like a multiple stream of income and they balance each other out, and then that you're able to keep those profit margins high.
Right,
That's
which is how a lot of companies run, right? I mean, I've in my there's always variability in margin across it, but yeah. So, but yes, lower revenue, higher margin businesses, and this is a SaaS model, so it's very predictable revenue.
Mhm.
Knock on wood, we have basically little to no churn, and because people once they integrate with our music and it's fantastic, they don't fire us. So we've had customers for 15 years that have been with us. So It's we're really lucky that way that we have great customers, and yeah, we're the only one, Kay, that's just this is a niche, right? I mean, we're focused on music and healthcare. It's all we
Mm.
do, right? And faith, obviously, and some of the other entertainment. So nobody else does that. They do the big, music companies that are doing, music in bars and restaurants and hotels. They're selling top 40. They're doing overhead systems. They're selling a lot of hardware in there with different zones, and we're just totally focused on healthcare and outcomes and supporting individuals with real healthcare needs.
Yes, definitely. Well, I love that. And I kind of want to share because I like to share about like the real life, what you're going through right now. Because as a business owner, it can be a lonely place. So we like to give our audience nuggets of wisdom and like be have that transparency. So what is something you're currently like challenged with within your business that you're working through?
Yeah, probably, similar to what a lot of businesses are doing, and that is trying to figure out what our AI strategy is going to be. I mean, I'm spending so much time researching AI, trying to understand, how it's going to impact our industry. You've probably read, there's a lot of consternation around what's going to happen with artists, and how are they going to get paid, and are they, their likeness, being used, and it's a mess right now in the music industry because this original AI generated music, how it works. It's learning off of what's out there that you created or Frank Sinatra created or Taylor Swift created, and it's using that likeness to create similar types of songs. Well, that learning mechanism, is very debatable on who should get paid for that. And so, we're as an industry really nervous right now because just the Wild West. There's music AI generated companies popping up left and right. The audio is getting better. The vocals are getting better. The instrumentation is getting better, and it's really confusing on how this is going to impact the industry. Now, with us, what keeps me, grounded when I start getting super nervous about this is that, you know, most of our customers are they have an just like you, we have an autobiographical response to certain types of music. And, they grew up listening to certain types of music, and that evokes certain memories and gives them feelings of helping them with wake, sleep, energy, relax, pain management, mood. And so right now, the generation that I serve, which, as I mentioned, 75 to 100, they're not going to be exposed to AI music in any relevant way that's going to change. They want to listen to what they grew up with. And as you know, the brain forms its musical memories between, it's debatable, but 12 and 22 is kind of what everybody says in the science world. So, we're not concerned necessarily about that right at this moment. But when I look forward, 3, 5, 7 years, especially like in my hospital market where I have younger demographics, and it keeps me up at night. So that was a long answer to your question, but I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do with it.
That's a whole nother podcast I could
Oh,
talk to you about, like especially with the music industry. That yeah, we'll have to come back to that another time because it's real. Like it's
real.
my artists are thinking about the same thing. I'm thinking about the same thing, and but yeah, AI, that's a big, it's a big thing. So how is that really affecting you right now? And besides the concern, is it taking up more of your time or is it taking up more of your money, resources? How is that challenge hitting you right now?
Yeah, so all of the above. It's taking a lot of my time. I'm taking courses. I'm going to be going back to the University of Texas and taking AI courses in January. Reading a lot on executive overviews and management on how AI is impacting the world, not just in my business, but everywhere. So I'm always looking at new stuff. So it is taking a lot of time on the resource side, on the tech side. We rolled out or are rolling out. You're the first one to know about it, but we're rolling out a new product here in the next couple of weeks, actually in Boston next week, which is an AI song generator. So we are going in. I just wrote one for my wife this morning while she was having coffee, and literally went in there and said, I want a romantic song in big band with a female vocalist with her name, Wendy, and a little bit about our past. And in 30 seconds, it spit out a beautiful song. And so, yeah, so it's scary, right? And so my thought process on that is it would be great for older adults, especially those with cognitive issues, to be able to put in content like that to help them remember and reminisce. I mean, they might not remember their daughters, sons, husbands, where they grew up. And so if you can put a song there that they can listen to with the right genre and style that they like, it may help evoke memories. That's my theory. We'll see. We roll it out, like I said, this week, how powerful it is. But yeah, spending a lot of time thinking about that and putting resources to it.
Definitely. I do like the positive look on it is like, how can we take this technology and turn it into something that's useful, that's helpful.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the beauty of humanity is we will get to that. There's always going to be those like bad actors out there, but I think a lot of people, the more people I've talked to about this conversation, especially in the music industry, has been the same. Like we want to do good. We want to
Right.
share music. So I think
Yeah,
that
because you're dealing with artists every day that are obviously in somewhere in their mind, they're thinking about this. I mean, especially like studio musicians. I mean, you can go create, all of that background. I was listening to a podcast just the other day about jingles, and that industry is just getting completely disrupted because you can
Mhm.
go in and build a jingle in, 2 minutes.
That's really true. I mean, I have friends that write those too, and yeah, we'll definitely have to continue the conversation because this is a really hot topic for me. So kind of like let's get into our fun rapid fire Q&A. We've, covered a lot of ground, especially real things that businesses are facing and many are challenged with AI in their own industries too.
Sure.
So let's get into those rapid fire. So I'm going to be asking you 4 questions. Feel free to answer very top of mind.
All
And
right. I'm
question
nervous.
Oh no, it's all good. Question number one is, what is a key to success for you?
I think it is determination, the ability to get kicked in the shin and be able to get up. I mean, it's really lonely being a founder, CEO, and visionary of what's going on. So I think it's, you just have to have persistence and belief and be able to bring people together. I've been very blessed with bringing together great teams. A lot of folks have worked with me and for me for over 20 years across all the businesses that I mentioned to you. So I know that was a lot of answers. I was just supposed to say one woman.
No, it's all good. It all came to the same kind of point. I thought that, and I completely agree. So number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Oh gosh. I think sticking to your guns is probably the biggest one. I think when you get out there, you start talking to people. A lot of them think you have a really dumb idea. You go talk to lots of investors who shoot you down. And so you have to have thick skin. You have to stick to your guns. If you believe in something, you have to fight for it because, it's really easy to get discouraged. The mantra that everybody's got an idea, but, if you're going to actually commercialize something, you've got to you've got to fight hard and you've got to stick to your guns.
I agree 100%. Number three is, it could be a book, any piece of content, a podcast, anything that's just kind of resonated with you recently.
Well, this will be a little off topic, but it's I've really started researching Buddhism, and I find it fascinating. I spent a month in Nepal climbing base camp of Everest about a year and a half ago, which was really mind-opening experience, and the people there were really incredible and calming, and not having a phone for a month. They're being completely, forget about I was freezing my what off and eating food that was making me sick and at 20,000 feet of altitude. But I met a lot of folks in the Buddhist culture and kind of became fascinated with it, and I think it translates a lot of ways into business, and so I'm a little bit obsessed with it right now. So.
That's super cool, and that's like, yeah, whatever's encouraging you and like building you through getting and being a business owner, bringing this light to other people is, I think that's huge.
Yeah, peace and forgiveness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Well, isn't sales the only
No,
answer that
honest.
matters? It's the only answer that matters at the end of the day, right? So I could do all this other great stuff, but if we're not growing and selling more, then it's all for naught. So not a very original answer, but it's the truth.
This is an honest answer. And I'll do a spin-off question and you can take your time a little bit on this is like, so what are you currently doing for sales? Like what kind of marketing are you doing to grow your sales?
Yeah, a lot of trade shows, unfortunately, in my industry. I just got back, as I told you late last night. I'm leaving in 3 days for another one in Boston, and I was in Iowa. And so we have to, our industry, the healthcare industry, does a lot of trade shows. So we just have to be there. And because, our tagline is the sound of healthcare, we've got to be at all these big healthcare events. And so that's probably the number one. We do social, we do digital, obviously, all the normal stuff, but it's a lot of road time and trade shows.
It's like you're on the road as a touring artist.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it sometimes. I feel like it's a lot. So,
Oh man. Oh, well, this has been a great conversation.
yeah,
Before we wrap up, I'd love to connect folks with you and your business. So how can people find you online?
yeah. So the business is Coro Health, Coro Health.com, and obviously you can find me on LinkedIn as well, and on all the big social channels. So, but yeah, you should check out the website and hear our story a little bit more and get a broader taste of what we do.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time for our final
Yeah.
question of the day.
All right.
All right, David, what is most inspiring to you today?
Um, Gosh, that's a great question. I look at leadership from other folks, and I'm fascinated with other leaders and how they grow their business. Whether in big businesses and small businesses, but whether it's a coffee shop or whether it's Apple, I find inspiration from those leaders. I do a lot of listening and learning with how those leaders, grow and maintain their business, and so I get a lot of inspiration from them. And like I said, a lot of small companies too. I mean, this is what makes our country great, right? And whether it's a hot dog vendor or Tim Cook, it's they're all kind of fighting for the same thing. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. Again, it's been so fun to talk to you today. And
yeah, you too.
well, thanks for being on the show.
All right, cool. Thank you for having me.